The harsh truth about changing your reality that nobody tells you about is that a lot of times change does not start in the physical. It does not start with your external reality. Change starts with your mindsets and your behaviors and working through your actions. So with that being said, welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then that means it's not aligned, which means it is not for you, so don't force it. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. Like we've stated in today's introduction, we're going to go over and discuss why it's so important to be patient with yourself as you're changing, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, some disclaimers, and certain things that you should be aware of. Starting off with the introduction, going back to what we said in the title with the first disclaimer. Change does not always happen immediately, and it's not always physically. There's this misconception that when you have the idea that you want to lose weight or gain weight, or you want to eat healthier, or when you want to become the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like for you, that is going to happen within 24 hours and that it is going to be smooth. When it comes to change, it starts with you just having the idea. So in order to take our thoughts and make them into our reality and make them a part of our routine and our lifestyles, we have to know what it is that we want. We have to set the intention. This is what people say when it comes to manifestation. In order for you to see a vision, you have to have the creativity and you have to have a sense of interest. So it's really important that when you want to see changes in your life, you start off figuring out what it is that you want. Until you know what it is that you want, you're not going to know what you need to do, how you need to do it, or what is expected. And that's going to be the second disclaimer. Just because you want to change doesn't mean that there's one way to do it. A lot of times we are so quick to limit ourselves on how certain things can show up based off of our previous mindsets and ideologies and what we've been exposed to. And I'm speaking from experience. What has helped me along my healing journey when it comes to me changing my life and accepting my reality from the past and in the present moment as I'm creating my future is realizing what I've been exposed to, what resources, the education, the finances, compared to what it is that I actually wanted. So taking the time to reflect and realizing what was true, what was false, what was helping, what was productive, and what I needed to let go of. A lot of times we have certain mindsets and certain limited beliefs when it comes to certain things, and this is another reason why sometimes you're not able to execute the things that you want, or you have a hard time seeing it for what it is because you're used to a way of thinking. So for example, if you have a goal of becoming more like physically fit, but you grew up in an environment where you weren't educated, or maybe you didn't have access to certain supplements or nutrients or a physical health provider, a lot of times you can have doubt, you can have fear, you can have worry, or even be confused and have insecurities about being healthier and losing weight or becoming physically healthier because of what you've been taught and shown. And that's going to be similar to the third disclaimer. You have to accept that just because you grew up thinking a certain type of way, just because you were programmed certain information from your family, friends, neighborhoods, community, schools, co-workers, classmates, doesn't mean that one, that information, like I said, is going to continue to resonate with you, or two, that it's for you. So you have to learn how to become educated into the things that you want and use your discernment, so therefore you can make the necessary quote-unquote changes. Like, just because everyone else, let's just say around you, physically was not in shape and all they knew was to eat junk food, or to say it's impossible to lose 30 pounds or 20 pounds in, let's just say, 2 to 3 months, doesn't mean that you have to agree with that. So it's really important that when you're figuring out what you want and you're reflecting, that you're being mindful of what you're watching, you're being mindful of who you listen to, you're being mindful of what you are focusing on, because what you focus on grows. Just because other people around you in your past or in your current reality don't want to eat healthier or become healthier, doesn't mean that applies to you. And that's the same thing with me. The things that I personally want in my life, none of the people that I knew for at least the first 28 years of my life were on the same frequency, did not have the same mindset, didn't have the same morals. This doesn't make people better or less than, but it's just when we want to be a certain type of way, which you're allowed to because it's your life, You have to be okay with letting go. You have to be okay with adding certain things. So it's really important that number 4, the 4th disclaimer, you're taking your time figuring out what you're able to do. Now, if you're new here, we motivate, inform, and come up with solutions by educating ourselves. I have a 30-day consistency playlist challenge. It's going to be in the description or somewhere here at the top of the screen, going over what it takes to make the necessary changes to become the person you want to be, because 99% of the time, you making changes is you creating habits, which means it's a part of your routine, which means it's a part of your lifestyle. And that's one of the biggest recommendations, I'm not going to spill too much, that nobody seems to be talking about. You have to be invested into yourself, and that's going to be the 5th disclaimer. You cannot say that you want change and you're not willing to do the work, you're not educating yourself, you're not removing certain people, places, and things, and you are not using what you have. A lot of times when you want to make drastic changes, especially if you don't have the resources, the finances, the community, or etc., you cannot be stubborn. You cannot be prideful. This doesn't mean that I'm here to invalidate your experience and say that you can't be upset, that you can't feel overwhelmed, that you can't feel like life is not fair, because it's not, unfortunately. But what has helped me along my healing journey, and I'm telling you from experience, you can't complain about the things that you want. Yes, you may have to do a lot more. Yes, it may require you a lot more energy and more effort. Yes, you may have to do it alone. But if that's who you want to be, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want for yourself, what are you going to do? Complaining and crying and whining about how you have to do above and beyond compared to what other people are doing is not going to help you. And that's going to be the 6th disclaimer. I'm so tongue twisted, but that's the 6th disclaimer before I get into the recommendations. Stop comparing yourself to people. Your change, your life, how you live your life is not meant for everyone to understand. The people that are going to get it are going to get it. Those who don't, oh well. Like, when you're making the changes to be the person who you want to be, people talking about you, how's that contributing in your life? Let me know in the comment section before we get into the recommendations. How is people judging you for things that they don't have the audacity to do themselves gonna make you feel better? And most importantly, why do you feel like you have to listen to them? Like, just because you were taught and shown certain ways of living doesn't mean that's the only way to live. And even with these videos, I always tell you, if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, send and share it to somebody who does. If it does, make sure you're liking and engaging and asking questions so we're on the same page. Because at the end of the day, life is going to go on, and you only get to physically live in this reality, in this lifetime, as you. So if you don't want to be disappointed, angry, and bitter, you have to be okay with willing to take risks and chances. And that's going to lead us in the first recommendation. In order for you to change, you have to decide this is what you want to do. And you have to be okay with taking years, months, decades, or your entire life making the necessary changes until you get to where you need to be. So if you're someone who is always having an attitude, or you're prideful, you're gonna have to work on your attitude. This doesn't mean that when you're building your house, or you're losing the weight, or you're going to school, or you're investing into your education, or you're starting that business, that it's not a lot of responsibility. Because I personally don't like when people say, oh, it's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging. No, it's not. If it was really that hard, if it was really that difficult, it was really that challenging, people wouldn't be doing it. It's just, you have to be real with yourself about what you're able to do. If you know that you only have maybe 3 days off within the 7 weeks to yourself, you have to be mindful of the time that you're able to invest into yourself. If you know you don't have the finances to purchase the home immediately or buy the car immediately, but you're able to have a payment plan, you have to be realistic and practical about how much money you're able to put to the side, or how much money you're able to put in towards your down payment or your lease or whatever it is. What we want is not impossible. It's just, are we willing to make the necessary requirements? Are we willing to invest into ourselves? Are we willing to do the work? Which is going to lead us into the second recommendation. When you're changing your mindset, your behaviors, your thoughts, your patterns, it's going to change. Who you were when you have the idea to change, as you're changing, and who you end up being is not going to be the same. So when you change, speaking from experience, certain people and certain places and things who are not willing to invest into themselves are going to be removed. You have to be okay with allowing people to exit your life. It doesn't have to be beef, it doesn't have to be hostility, it doesn't have to be you think you're holier more than thou or whatever it is, because that's not the situation. It's just not everyone is going to be able to go with you as you continue to make the necessary changes or have access to you. If these people really loved you and cared about you and supported you and genuinely wanted you to do well, as you make the necessary changes, they'll contribute. If they're not financing you, feeding you, pouring into you, let them say what they need to say. Let them talk and judge and, oh, this and this and that. Who are they? And that's going to be the third recommendation. When you are doing things by yourself, it does require a lot more energy, a lot more effort. When you know that you've had people withhold support, or maybe you never had access to certain resources or knowledge and education, you have to stop being hard on yourself. And of course, this is something that you have to practice. Like I said, it's not difficult, it's not hard. It's just, you have to realize, like, the changes that you're having to make in your present moment is going to help you be the future version of yourself. And a lot of times, as we're making the necessary changes, you're going to learn about yourself. And that's going to be the fourth thing. The relationship that you have with yourself has to be stronger than anything, because in order for you to see the vision all the way through, you have to know who you are, you have to be confident within yourself, and you cannot be hesitant. So if you're somebody who used to doubt themselves, you're going to have to work on the doubt. If you're somebody who has insecurities and you have low self-esteem, you're going to have to figure that out. And the best way to do that is to create affirmations. Now, of course, a lot of people think affirmations are cringy and corny. Nothing is cringy and corny about being the best version of yourself. Like, let's get that out of our heads. Stop listening to people who are willfully ignorant and don't know what they're talking about. How is you reassuring yourself to be better by programming yourself to think a certain type of way cringy? Once again, the people who actually live the life that you look up to and admire have had to have pep talks or had to have communities of people that poured into them to support them if they weren't able to support themselves. So I am challenging you all before I end up the video to write down 3 to 5 affirmations that you can affirm that you know that you're doing. So if you're building a house from scratch, what are some things that you can say that are positive to help you continue to have the vision? Because you're gonna have days where you're tired, you're gonna have days where it's raining, you're gonna have days where it's snowing, you're gonna have days where it's traffic, you're gonna have days where you don't feel like doing it. It's up to you. You don't have to rush. You don't have to compare yourself. You don't have to look outside of yourself, but you just have to know that as long as you are being committed and as long as you're being consistent, if this is what you really want to do, if this is who you want to be, then you'll be it. And of course, in the 30-day consistent playlist challenge, it breaks it down. It's over like 25 to 30 videos, and the videos are a lot longer. Because at this point, when I'm making this video, it's August. If you're returning, you already know the vibes. You should be caught up. And if you're new here, make sure you're liking, commenting, engaging, and follow me on all my social media platforms. If you have any questions that I didn't answer already, in the comment section down below, and booking your service in your session if you need like a more one-on-one intimate vibe and you're ready. Because the longer you wait to make the necessary changes, the more difficult and the more challenging it's going to be. And it's like, you don't need to feel overwhelmed. You don't need to feel frustrated. You don't need to feel like you're stuck and stagnant. You just need to realize, okay, mentally, I have to think differently. Emotionally, I have to be able to handle and regulate my emotions differently. When it comes to nervous systems, you have to be able to calm the anxiety. You gotta have to stop the doubt. You're gonna have to stop the fear. But in order for you to do that, you need to know what it is that you want. You need to figure out what you're able to do with what you have. You need to be educating yourself to figure out what you need to invest into, what you need to let go of. Fourth thing, you need to be able to put into action, put into work. Fifth thing, you need to rest when you need to rest, and just continue to do what you need to do. Like, because you have to have a strong mind. You have to have a certain type of attitude. And most importantly, don't worry about nothing else. You just need to be focused on what it is that you want. And I'm telling you from experience, the more you continue to focus, the more you lock in, it's going to show up internally before it shows up externally. And when certain people and places and things have an issue, or they're not, like I said, in alignment, love them from a distance, remove them, but keep it moving. So whatever questions, comments, concerns that you guys want me to go over and discuss, let me know. Thank you guys for always liking, commenting, engaging, and stay tuned to my next video. I love you. You are loved. You're not alone. Thanks for watching. Peace.